Welcome into Verts. My name is Harrison Graham. Lots of buzz from the NFL Combine as GMs and head coaches are speaking to the media today. Several have already done so, including Tennessee Titans general manager Mike Borgonzi. They, of course, hold the number one pick. There's been some reporting that they'd be open to trading down, but certainly have not made a decision. And that's kind of where things sit, it sounds like, right now. Let's take a listen as Chat Sports has boots on the ground for the Combine to what Borgonzi has said regarding the number one pick so far.
I would say we've had some phone calls. Yeah, I'll keep those phone calls to the vest, but we've had some phone calls, yeah.
He later added that it's too early to make any kind of final decision. Are they going to keep the pick? Are they going to trade the pick? He certainly talked about the quarterbacks and Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, guys at the top of this draft and some of the special traits these guys have. So I wouldn't call it a for sale sign. Like a couple of years ago, Bears GM Ryan Poles kind of made it clear, like, yeah, give us a call. We're open for business, and I don't think the Titans are that far down the road, but it certainly does seem like they're open to at least hearing what teams have to say, and feels like they already have done that. So they'll go through their process at the Combine this week, and then I would guess between Saturday and the start of free agency, they'll decide if they're trading that pick. I would imagine teams who are interested in that pick would want to have that pick before the start of free agency. To me, there's only 4 players that I think realistically could be the number one selection in this draft. And to me, these aren't the 4 best prospects in this draft. I wouldn't put Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders as a top 5 prospect this year. But given the position they play, I think they're the 2 guys that could be in play to go number one, whether it's Tennessee or a team that trades up. Obviously, Abdul Carter, the Penn State edge rusher, and Travis Hunter, I think they are the 2 best prospects in this draft. You got Mason Graham there as well, but I think he's behind those 2. I don't think he's a realistic option to go number one overall. So I do think it'll be one of these players. And look, if you're the Titans, Mike Borgonzi, first-year GM, Brian Callahan, second-year head coach, to me, you don't have to force it right now. If you don't love a QB in this draft, I'd be looking at the Giants. I'd be talking to Joe Schoen, who we'll talk about them in a second, and say, hey, what are you willing to give us for the number one pick? Now, to move from 3 to 1 in this draft, it may not cost what it normally would, but if you're Tennessee, you might be able to get 3 and 34 out of it. I don't think you'll get a future first, but maybe you get 34 and a day 3 pick or something like that. And if you don't love a quarterback, that's still pretty good value because then you still are guaranteed one of Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter, potentially both still being on the board by moving down from 1 to 3, because if the Giants trade up, they're obviously drafting a quarterback, and then depending on what Cleveland does, even if they take Carter or Hunter, you take the other one, and you're very happy at the end of the day, assuming they like both of those players. What say you? What will the Titans do with the number one pick? Type K for keep, type T for trade. My gut right now tells me that they're going to pivot off that pick. There's been some buzz that they like Cam Ward, but if they don't love him, I would trade the pick. I've advocated that they should draft Cam Ward, but if they don't love him, they shouldn't. I don't think you should ever draft a quarterback if you don't feel really good about one, because to me, otherwise you're just doing it to do it, and I think that's stupid. So I would lean that they're going to trade it here. If I was running the Titans, I like enough about Cam Ward where I would probably take him, but if they don't, then they should trade down, absolutely. Because a team like the New York Giants could be willing to trade up. Joe Schoen meeting with the media today as well. Obviously, he's under a lot of pressure. Year 4 is the Giants GM. The offseason Hard Knocks last year, disaster. Not bringing back Saquon Barkley. Kind of more committing to Daniel Jones. That obviously didn't work out. And when your head coach and GM are entering year 4 and they don't have a quarterback, what starts to happen? Desperation. And when you get desperate, you typically are going to be over-aggressive in trying to get a quarterback. And I think the Giants are in that spot because they're not guaranteed one of the top 2 guys to fall to number 3. Obviously, if one did, they'd probably take one. But if not, they might look to trade up. Joe Schoen asked by our own Marshall Green his thoughts on Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, and Shane gives his overall take on where things sit with the quarterbacks.
How would you compare Shedeur and Cam Ward to best?
Yeah, I'm not going to get into comparing the guys. We've done a lot of work on those 2. I know a lot of people are talking about those 2, but there's other quarterbacks throughout the draft, and excited to get around those guys as well.
Last one.
About Cam's game? Yeah, I haven't been around Cam. Again, that's something that we'll have to get around. But have seen him play a couple times. I was at the Cal game, and they dug themselves a little bit of hole. Some of it was they were in a hole because of him, but he also was able to get him out of it. And they won the game because of him. So, those are traits that you look for. The gotta have it moments, whether it's Virginia Tech, that Cal game, to bring a team back. And when everybody in the building knows you're going to throw it, that you can throw it. So, and there's several quarterbacks in this draft that are like that. So not just Cam. So excited to get around the prospects this week and throughout the spring.
It has felt like throughout this draft process that they've been around Shedeur a little bit more. Remember, I think it was down at the Shrine Bowl. Shedeur and Cam was down there too, but Shane just saying he hasn't really been around him. But like Dable dabbed up Shedeur at one point, so it seems like they've kind of taken a closer look at him, which is certainly interesting. I think Cam Ward is the higher ceiling prospect, especially playing in the Northeast where it can get cold, it can get windy, and his arm talent, I think he can pierce the throws through the wind a little bit better than a player like Shedeur. I mean, you look at the two guys, obviously both put up huge numbers, right? I think Shedeur, especially on underneath and intermediate accuracy, probably has a slight edge. Cam Ward, more physical talent, certainly going to take more chances. You see the big-time throw percentage certainly being higher in his case, but so is turnover-worthy plays. And it's kind of, what flavor do you want, right? Do you want the guy who, may not have the biggest ceiling, but may also do a better job of taking care of the football in Shedeur Sanders? Or do you want Cam Ward, who you may have to live with some reckless mistakes, especially early on, but he's also going to give you some wow moments? And like Shane said, I remember watching that Cal game too. I stayed up late. I think they were down like 27 points, and he just went nuclear and brought him back. I think he gives you a better chance to get you back into games like that than a guy like Shedeur does. Bottom line is, I expect the Giants to draft a quarterback, and they might trade up to do it if they like someone bad enough and if they get nervous enough where both these guys go 1 and 2, whether it's to Titans and Browns or to other teams that could potentially trade up like the Raiders at 6 or some other team in this draft. So, listen, I think this regime's under a lot of pressure. John Mara said after they brought him back that his patience is running thin, that they need to start winning soon. And when you don't have a quarterback and your owner sends that message, you're probably going to go get a quarterback, even if it is, slightly reckless to trade up for one for a draft that's, not considered to be the best QB draft of all time. Although I do think these two players at least have starter ability in the NFL. We're almost to 8,000 subscribers. We're 74 away. The goal was to get there before the workouts begin on Wednesday. It's going to be close. It's Tuesday. Can we get there? Can 74 new subscribers land on this channel? If you want daily content around the NFL Combine content all week long, we're the channel for you. Hit that sub button. Okay, Jonathan Allen. Remember, the Combine is an event just for everything, not just the draft, not just for the prospects working out. All 32 teams, all the big agents, they're all in the same place at the same time. So trade rumors start to circulate. You see these little requests sometimes, free agency buzz, and the Commanders are reportedly allowing Jonathan Allen, who's going to be 30 this year, to seek a trade. He's got 1 year left on his contract. They would save over $16 million if they save him. They already have a lot of cap, and if they feel like he's just kind of a role player at this point, trading him probably makes sense, even if they don't get a lot for him. I still think he's a pretty good player, especially as an interior pass rusher. Now, the last couple of years, his run defense has, I don't even think slipped, puts it fairly. Like, it's just kind of fallen off a cliff. He's not a run stopper anymore. He is an interior disruptor against the pass. So, certainly value in that, but probably not a 3-down player anymore, especially on a good defensive line. I think he's a heavy rotation guy, pass rush specialist who can start, but is probably not playing all 3 downs. So, if it's on a loaded defensive line, maybe he's like a top backup. If it's on a average defensive line, probably a starter, but you would certainly like better run defenders to kind of spell him with. But I still think you find interior guys that can disrupt the pocket against opposing quarterbacks. There is value in that. Now, if a team trades for him, they bring on $15.8 million. Would a team extend him on a 1 or 2 year deal? Are they comfortable with that cup number? It's not a crazy number, but it's not exactly cheap either for a guy who's got some flaws and some injury concerns. He missed about half of last season as well with injuries. I did think he looked pretty good in the playoffs, though, so finished pretty strong. So it'll be interesting to see what his market is. I think you're looking at a day 3 pick, a 5th, 6th round pick, take on the $15 million. And, probably play this year out. Maybe there's a team or two out there that'd be willing to extend him on the spot. I'm sure that's what he's looking for because he's probably got one more chance to earn a decent payday. But sounds like Washington's going to move on. They have Daron Payne. Obviously, they drafted Johnny Newton last year as well. It's a loaded defensive tackle draft, so they could easily just add a guy in the middle rounds to give them some more depth moving forward. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of 4 Verts. We will continue to pump out content here on the channel. Plenty of YouTube shorts as well from the Combine. Big headline stories out there. We'll be sure to get you all of those. My name is Harrison Graham. We will see you guys very soon.